Hey Fit Bottom World, it's Allison here at Thrive Yoga in Rockville, Maryland. And today we're going to dig into the world of inversions. I wrote an article a while back for Fit Bottom Zen. Please check it out. It's got lots of info about the benefits of inversions, but it also lays out inversions for every level of practice. So when you get to the point in that article where it starts talking about handstand, this next pose I'm going to show you is a really great place to start. It's called L pose or halfstand, can be known by either name. But before you get too worried about what this means, I just want you to remember that when we were kids, we used to go outside and we used to do cartwheels and flips and walk on our hands, and we used to have fun with it. It used to be something that was incredibly enjoyable, and it was nice to be free and to be upside down. And then as we got older, that became a very scary thing, right? So I hear that from my students all the time in my classes, is that they are afraid to invert. And when you really dig deeper, there's a couple of issues I tend to run into, is that either people feel like they're not entirely confident in their own strength, so they're not actually sure that they can hold themselves. And so there's a lot of anxiety that comes around that, because now I'm asking them to trust in their own strength and have faith and confidence in that, enough that you're protecting your own head with your arms. And that's a tall order. The other thing that happens, I think, as we age is that we start to develop this fear of failure, and a lot of times that becomes a very paralyzing fear. When we were kids, we messed up all the time. That's how we learned. It was totally normal. We were screwing up all the time, and it was funny, and it was learning, and it wasn't a big deal. But we get older and it becomes a big deal, right? We don't want to mess up. We don't want to look silly. We don't want to fail. And we certainly don't want to be trying a bunch of stuff that we don't think we're going to be good at. So I think these inversions, particularly with handstand and forearm balance and L pose that we're going to work on, is that it's asking you to venture a little bit out of that mindset, to come one or two steps away from your fear and start to see what's actually in front of you. That it's okay to mess up, right? And it's okay to have fun and have some confidence in yourself. And if you don't have the strength now, you know it, and you can start working towards it. So it's definitely gonna give you a push in the right direction, all right? So don't freak out. This is gonna be fun, all right? Go near a wall, one that's sturdy, maybe not one that your neighbors are right up against, and grab your mat, and let's get rolling. Okay, so before we go up onto the wall, there's a couple of things I want to just go over with you quickly that are really going to help you make this a little bit easier, okay? So the first thing is that if you bring your hands to the lower part of your rib cage, you have all these floating ribs that don't attach to the sternum. They just sort of hang out down here. So when we go upside down, our hands are over our head, even in this position, you start to notice that those ribs want to sort of poof out, okay? That disengages your core a little bit. So we want to work on making sure that we kind of corset these ribs in so that they stay integrated and the core can stay in a nice functional shape. So once your arms come over your head and you can put your arms up and feel this, there's a tendency to want to poke the ribs out. So from this position with your palms up, just like you're standing on your hands, strong through the arms, pull your ribs in. And see, it requires a lot of core to hold them in that position. So that is what you're going to be working for when you are upside down. You want to be working those ribs back in so that you have your core on board to help you. The second thing that I want you to think about has to do with your arms. You take your arms out in front of you with the palms to face in, and you sort of push your pinkies a little closer together. You feel this wrapping or hugging action in your back. We want this action because this is going to give you shoulder stability. So when you're in handstand and your arms are over your head, it's going to feel more like triceps coming in towards your face. So your shoulders will drop down because that's where your engaged shoulders and arms would be. And then you'll feel your triceps start to roll in, almost like you're screwing your hands into the floor to get them to roll in so that you get that hugging action. All right, so ribs and arms, we really want to make sure we're keeping those actions, because if you just sort of try to stilt yourself up on your hands, this gets very hard. If you use the strength of your shoulders and you use the strength of your core, your arms don't have to do as much work. So keep that in mind. All right, half stand at the wall. So you come close to a wall, we're gonna set up in a very shallow downward facing dog, okay? So more shallow than you think, with the toes on the floor and the heels on the wall or on the baseboard, okay? Hands will come to the floor, shoulder width distance apart. Now that does not mean the outer part of your shoulders, that means right about in the center of where your shoulder heads are if they were extended straight out in front of you, okay? And then your pointer finger, we want that pointed straight towards, right away from you, so straight out in front of you. So it's a little bit of an external rotation that gets you started on that hugging action of the arms. All right, so if your fingers are pointed in, your elbows are gonna bend, and you're gonna have to rely on your arm strength to keep you up, and that is not going to be very helpful or very fun. And we're going for fun, remember? Fun, fun, okay? So pointer finger points straight up, shoulder width distance apart in a super shallow downward facing dog. Toes on the floor, heels on the wall, all right? And then from there, I'll walk you through where we go, okay? Basically, we're just gonna bring one of the legs up to the ball of the foot is on the wall, and then it's no jumping, no hopping to get the other leg up. The idea is to push that foot into the wall enough that the other leg lifts up and can meet it, and you're in an L shape at the wall or half handstand. All right, let's try it. So coming up to the wall, toes on the floor, heels on the wall or the baseboard. Take my arms out, hands are shoulder width distance apart, pointer fingers pointed straight ahead in front of me. Firm press of the hands, so the entire surface of the palms are down on the floor, especially the top part of your palm. It's gonna get real hard on your wrist if you dump all the weight into your wrist. So make sure you're pushing a little bit with the top part of the palm of your hand. And then from there, I push up. So I'm in that shallow downward facing dog. Starting to feel that wrapping action, so I got that hugging, I can feel my shoulders turn on, and then starting to work the ribs in. From here, I'll bring my leg up, ball of the foot to the wall. Again, no jumping. The idea is to push the heel down and work to straighten the leg up so that the other leg can lift up and meet it. So I'm working to stack my hips right over my shoulders, ribs pulling in, hugging of the shoulders inward. And then once you get here, you can hang out, build shoulder strength, build core strength, or you can start working on lifting a leg up. Maybe coming onto your tippy toes, and then switch. Go up, lift up, maybe hop, 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 and then come back down. Things you want to avoid. Try not to bring your legs really high up. I mean, you can, that's working you towards handstand, but there's a lot of other stuff going on here where you're off balance. So it's not building you quite enough core strength or the alignment of hips over shoulders, okay? And you won't want to be too far down because that's a whole lot harder. All right, so you're working to get your feet, your legs, level with this stacked position of hips over shoulders. Because once you get that alignment, you can start to work towards a handstand away from the wall or turn around and start working at kicks up the wall. But we're gonna save that stuff for another video, all right? For right now, just working on this guy, all right? It can be a challenge sometimes just to get this bent leg straight and lift the other leg up. So work on that. And again, once you get up there, it's all about hug in, pull your ribs in, start building the strength. Have a little faith in yourself. And yes, a little bit of fun, right? Drills on handstand, that's coming at you soon. So keep looking out for that.